One of the benefits of cultivating self-care and self-compassion is that they work hand in hand to help you gain perspective on your emotional attachments. When you care for your emotional health, you create space for reflection. This reflection allows you to assess situations and determine whether emotional attachment is leading to growth or emotional drain. With self-compassion, you can assess whether your reactions and emotions are in line with your values or whether they are being influenced by external pressures or unhealthy attachments. This kind of reflection helps you emotionally detach with clarity, understanding that detachment is not about avoiding feelings, but about managing them in a way that supports your overall well-being. Good morning, everyone. In today's fast-paced world, emotions often play a pivotal role in how we navigate relationships, work, and our daily lives. While emotions are a natural and essential part of the human experience, there are times when we find ourselves too emotionally invested in people, situations, or outcomes. This emotional attachment can become overwhelming, leading to stress, burnout, or even unhealthy dependencies. But how do we take a step back and regain control? The answer lies in the practice of emotional detachment. Emotional detachment begins with the crucial step of emotional awareness, which is the foundation for maintaining a healthy relationship with your emotions. At its core, emotional awareness involves recognizing and understanding the emotions that arise within you and how these emotions influence your thoughts and behaviors. The first and most important aspect of this process is acknowledging when your emotional involvement with someone or something has become unhealthy or excessive. Often emotions can drive us to act impulsively, leading to situations where we become too invested in outcomes, people, or situations that are not beneficial for us. Emotional awareness allows us to step back, examine these emotions, and decide whether they are serving our best interests or if they are taking an unhealthy toll on our mental and emotional well-being. The challenge many of us face is that we often get lost in our emotions, believing that our feelings are the only truth in a situation. It's easy to become overwhelmed by intense emotions like anger, sadness, or even love, thinking that these feelings are the defining factor of who we are or how we should act. However, emotional awareness teaches us that emotions, while valid and important, are not permanent or absolute. They are fleeting and often influenced by external factors, and by recognizing their transient nature, we begin to take back control over them. One of the first signs that emotional detachment may be necessary is when you notice that you are consistently feeling drained, anxious, or overwhelmed by a particular situation or relationship. For example, if you find yourself constantly thinking about someone or worrying about an outcome that is beyond your control, these thoughts and emotions might be consuming a disproportionate amount of your mental and emotional energy. This excessive emotional investment can create a sense of imbalance in your life, making it difficult to focus on other important areas like self-care, personal growth, or even other relationships. Emotional awareness encourages you to pause, reflect, and check in with yourself to evaluate the degree of emotional energy you're expending and whether it's sustainable or healthy. Another important aspect of emotional awareness is understanding the difference between healthy emotional engagement and emotional overinvestment. Healthy emotional engagement involves being open to your feelings and allowing them to guide your actions when necessary, but without becoming completely absorbed by them. On the other hand, emotional overinvestment happens when emotions start to dictate your behavior in a way that negatively impacts your life. You might become overly reactive, excessively giving of yourself, or unable to let go of a situation that you cannot change. When you recognize that you're no longer functioning in a balanced way and that your emotions are taking over, it's time to assess whether emotional detachment is required. A powerful tool in this process is mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, you cultivate the ability to observe your emotions from a place of non-judgment. Instead of reacting to every emotional surge or getting swept up in negative feelings, you learn to step back and simply observe what is happening within you. This creates a mental space between the stimulus, the situation, or person causing the emotion and your reaction. The more aware you become of your emotional triggers, the more control you gain over how you respond to them. This awareness allows you to discern when it's time to detach emotionally from a situation without suppressing or ignoring your feelings. Emotional awareness is about building a deeper connection with yourself and your feelings. It's about understanding that emotions are just one part of your experience and that you have the power to navigate them with intentionality. By fostering emotional awareness, you begin to see your feelings as a tool for understanding rather than as something to be controlled or eliminated. With this understanding, you can make healthier decisions about when and how to emotionally detach, leading to greater emotional resilience, peace of mind, and a more balanced life. One of the most vital aspects of emotional detachment is the ability to set healthy boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define how we allow others to treat us, how we engage in relationships, and how much emotional energy we are willing to invest in a situation. Setting clear and effective boundaries is not only necessary for emotional detachment, but it is also an act of self-respect. When we fail to establish boundaries, we leave ourselves open to emotional drain, unhealthy attachments, and excessive involvement in situations that take more from us than we are able or willing to give. Boundaries help protect our emotional well-being by allowing us to determine where our responsibilities lie and where others' responsibilities begin. The challenge many people face is that they don't recognize the importance of setting boundaries until they are already emotionally overwhelmed. Often we may feel guilty for saying no to others or uncomfortable with limiting the amount of emotional energy we give to someone or something. This guilt can be especially pronounced in relationships where there is a sense of obligation, or when we have been conditioned to believe that love means giving endlessly of ourselves. However, it's important to understand that boundaries are not about rejecting others, they are about taking care of ourselves. Without boundaries, we risk becoming enmeshed in others' emotions, desires, or needs, which can lead to burnout and emotional depletion. Setting boundaries is particularly crucial in maintaining emotional detachment, because it allows us to distinguish between what is our responsibility and what belongs to others. Often, we get emotionally attached to situations where we believe we need to take on the emotional burden of others. For example, we may feel responsible for another person's happiness or success, or we might absorb the negativity and stress of others without realizing it. Boundaries help us to recognize that while we can offer support, we are not responsible for carrying someone else's emotional weight. By setting boundaries, we can engage with others in a healthy way that preserves our emotional energy and ensures we are not sacrificing our own well-being for the sake of others. A common struggle with boundaries is learning to communicate them effectively. Many people find it difficult to express their needs or limits, especially if they fear that doing so will result in conflict or rejection. However, communicating boundaries does not have to be a confrontation. It is possible to set clear, respectful boundaries without being harsh or unkind. For example, when you feel that a relationship or situation is demanding too much of your emotional energy, you can express this need by calmly explaining that you need space or time for yourself. It's important to communicate your boundaries with confidence and compassion, recognizing that doing so is an essential part of self-care and that you have the right to protect your emotional health. Establishing boundaries also involves knowing when to walk away. Sometimes, emotional detachment requires stepping away from relationships or situations that are no longer serving us. This might involve ending a friendship, distancing yourself from a toxic work environment, or learning to say no to people who constantly take without giving. Walking away can feel difficult, especially if you have emotional attachments or feel guilty about leaving, but it's crucial to remember that your well-being comes first. Learning to let go of situations that drain you emotionally is one of the most powerful forms of emotional detachment. Boundaries can take many forms: physical, emotional, mental, and even digital. In the age of constant connectivity, it's just as important to set boundaries with technology as it is with people. Taking breaks from social media, setting time limits on your devices, or even muting notifications can help you preserve your emotional space. By taking control of your time and energy, you ensure that you are able to engage with the world on your terms, rather than feeling overwhelmed or consumed by external demands. In the long run, setting and maintaining healthy boundaries is an essential practice for emotional detachment. It allows us to engage with others in a way that is both fulfilling and sustainable, while protecting our emotional well-being. When we establish clear boundaries, we regain control over our emotional energy and learn to engage in relationships with authenticity and self-respect. Boundaries are not walls that shut others out. They are the bridges that allow us to navigate the complexities of life while staying true to ourselves. Self-care and self-compassion play essential roles in emotional detachment, acting as crucial tools for maintaining emotional balance and well-being. Emotional detachment doesn't mean distancing yourself from feelings or becoming numb to your emotions. Rather, it involves recognizing when your emotions are no longer serving your best interests and taking steps to protect your mental and emotional health. To do this, self-care and self-compassion are needed because they allow you to remain emotionally connected without being overwhelmed. They enable you to maintain a healthy distance from situations or people that may be draining your energy, all while fostering emotional resilience and stability. Self-care is the practice of intentionally nurturing and prioritizing your physical, emotional, and mental health. It involves engaging in activities and habits that replenish your emotional energy and promote a sense of well-being. When it comes to emotional detachment, self-care provides the foundation for maintaining your emotional boundaries without feeling guilty or anxious. This means taking the time to rest, engage in activities that bring you joy, and practice relaxation techniques that reduce stress. By focusing on self-care, you're building the emotional resilience necessary to handle difficult situations without letting them overwhelm you. Self-care also means paying attention to your needs, both big and small, and responding to them in a way that respects your boundaries. For instance, if you've been feeling drained by a relationship or a stressful work environment, self-care might look like taking a break from that situation. It might mean saying no to additional commitments, asking for support from others, or carving out time in your day for activities that promote relaxation or rejuvenation, such as reading, walking, or spending time with loved ones. Practicing self-care regularly helps you restore your emotional equilibrium, making it easier to detach when necessary. In addition to self-care, self-compassion is another key element of emotional detachment. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience that you would extend to a close friend. When you experience difficult emotions or challenging situations, it can be easy to become critical of yourself. You may feel guilty for needing emotional space or frustrated with your inability to manage everything perfectly. However, self-compassion helps counter these negative thought patterns by encouraging you to approach yourself with love and understanding rather than judgment. When practicing self-compassion, you allow yourself to experience emotions without punishing yourself for having them. It's normal to feel sadness, frustration, or even anger when facing challenging situations or relationships. Instead of trying to suppress or avoid these emotions, self-compassion encourages you to acknowledge them and treat yourself with care. This attitude helps you stay emotionally grounded and avoid being swept up in emotions that may otherwise cause you to overreact or stay emotionally attached to harmful situations. Through self-compassion, you begin to understand that taking time for yourself or emotionally detaching when necessary is not an act of selfishness, but a necessary practice for maintaining your overall health. In fact, by caring for yourself and setting emotional boundaries, you become better equipped to care for others. You cannot give from an empty cup, and practicing self-compassion ensures that you are replenishing your emotional reserves, so you have the strength and clarity to navigate relationships and life's challenges in a healthy way. One of the benefits of cultivating self-care and self-compassion is that they work hand in hand to help you gain perspective on your emotional attachments. When you care for your emotional health, you create space for reflection. This reflection allows you to assess situations and determine whether emotional attachment is leading to growth or emotional drain. With self-compassion, you can assess whether your reactions and emotions are in line with your values or whether they are being influenced by external pressures or unhealthy attachments. This kind of reflection helps you emotionally detach with clarity, understanding that detachment is not about avoiding feelings, but about managing them in a way that supports your overall well-being. The practice of self-care and self-compassion is about honoring yourself and your emotional needs. Emotional detachment becomes more manageable when you approach it from a place of love and respect for yourself. By prioritizing your emotional health through self-care and offering yourself the compassion you deserve, you equip yourself with the tools to navigate life's emotional challenges with resilience, strength, and a balanced perspective.